Hello, this is Chapter 3, Section 2, Identifying Functions, Lesson 2, Video 3. Example. First of all, I would like to explain what a function is. A function is a special type of relation that pairs each domain with only one range. In other words, the x cannot repeat. So when you're looking at it, there are two different ways of discovering whether or not something would be a function or not. So in the example, it tells us to give the domain and range of the relation and then to determine whether or not it's a function. So for the first one, we can start by stating the domain and range. So the domain is x, and then we have 7, 9, 12, and 15. So 7, 9, 12, and 15. Then the range, we only have 3, -7, -1, 0. This uneven aspect of the domain and range could be a heads up to the possibility of having a non-function. The key is whether or not the domains have more than the range. If the domain is larger, that means that one of the domains, or one of the x values, repeats, meaning that it needs to be used twice in order to even out with the range. So when you look at this mapping diagram, it's actually really obvious that it isn't a function because of that repetition. It occurs right here with the 7, which happens to go to 1, and then it also goes to 0. Because it goes to two different items, that's an automatic red flag that this is not a function. It doesn't matter if it repeats over here like it does with the y value, even though -1 goes to also 12, or 12 goes to -1 as well. That doesn't actually matter. It's not a big deal. So because of that, we're actually considered to be okay, and there's no major issues. So it's the fact that the 7 has two lines coming out of it that would make it a not function. The next one that you need to consider is the one that we have on the right, which is B, which is a circle. First things first is domain and range. So again, domain is x's and range is y's. Both of these are continuous because it's a circle. So we have to definitely use inequalities like we did in the first example. The first thing that you want to look for are endpoints, meaning like how far to the left and to the right. So our graph goes from here to here. That's as far as it can go, which means this point here and this point here will affect our domain, while our range will be affected from here to here, from top to bottom. And again, from this point here to this point there. So when writing out the domain, we go from -4 to +4. And then the range goes from, again, -4 to +4, because it goes from here up to here. Okay, so that's 4, or -4, 4, and then -4, 4. Next, well, if you look at the green line, it crosses the red line twice. It crosses up here, and then it crosses again down here. Because it crosses twice, this is also not a function. And the test is called the vertical line test. Which in essence means that the line cannot cross the graph twice. More specifically, it cannot cross the graph more than once. And I will, with more examples, we will definitely be going over this a little bit more in class. But the key is that, vertical line test, if you take like a pencil and push it up against your page as a vertical line, or against any graph, if that pencil crosses the graph more than once, it's not a function. Okay, so for it to be a function, it can only cross it once. So for the U-try, you have two sets of relations. So it says give the domain and range of each relation, and then tell whether the relation is a function, and then explain. So the explanation would be like based on the domain, does the x repeat and does it not? So if the x repeats, then it's not a function. That is the end of this video and the end of all 3 videos.